The off-season is an amazing time. Everyone's happy, it's optimistic, and it's the same way in Carolina right now, but it's also very similar to Washington, because it's like as everything around you is positive and happy, there's these little leaks, little information coming out, prominent sources covering the team, telling you something about the past that you probably didn't know. And Joe Person of The Athletic dropped a lot of information that we're going to review. Too much for me to review in one show. We're actually going to have to come back probably on Saturday with another show to review all of it. We've all been told that it's the cap. It's the cap. Brant Tillis, 15-minute spot earlier this offseason, talking about how it's the cap that's preventing the Panthers from signing big-ticket free agents like Milton Williams. It's the cap. And they've been consistent with this across the organization. Dave Canales actually incited the cap when discussing with Joe Person of The Athletic about why the Panthers released Jadeveon Clowney back in May. It's all about the cap. That's all that comes from Carolina. It's cap, 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 cap. And you see all these people buying into it. And I've always known it's a bunch of crap. The cap is crap. If they really wanted to sign some of these guys, they could do it. If they really wanted a big ticket free agent, if the Panthers really wanted to spend money, they could easily do it. Just look at Trevon Moehring's contract. 2026 and 2027. He's accounting $40 million against the cap in those years. Like $7 million against the cap in 2025. You could structure the deals. You could get creative. The cap is crap. It's a little bit of a force, but it's not everything. So why aren't the Panthers pursuing some of these free agents? Why did the Panthers release Jadeveon Clowney back in May? A month ago, they released the edge rusher because they didn't view him as a great locker room fit. They did not view Jadeveon Clowney as a great locker room fit, is why Joe Person of The Athletic writes, the Carolina Panthers released Jadeveon Clowney. It wasn't because of the cap. It's not because they're trying to make more room for these guys to grow and flourish. They're not trying to save money. It was the personality. And this is after point blank Dave Canales told the media back in May that they released Jadeveon Clowney. I think he said, great luck, JD. Go, you're going to do great things somewhere. As JD departs and Canales is saying that, feeding us that information. He was saying that it was because the cap and because they want room for these other guys to flourish. It's a load of crap. It's the personality, writes a Carolina Panthers insider. And we need to stop taking seriously every little verbal interaction Canales and Morgan have with the media. People just verbatim take what these people have seriously. And it's like Canales and Morgan talk to the media like they're married men coming home from a bachelor party. It's all some iteration of the truth. They omit hours and hours and hours of what actually happens inside Carolina. What's actually going on inside the Carolina Panthers locker room, that's never getting out. 10% of it. It's like, yeah, honey, we just came back from Vegas, steak dinner, got a couple cocktails. Trey got a little bit too drunk. We went back to the hotel and we were all in bed by 10 p.m. What actually happened? You got bombed. You're at a dive bar. You were looking at cleavage like you were a drone targeting a target. You drank too much. Everyone did. We all knew it was a big mess. Everyone knows it's a big mess. And you walk in the house and you just say, whatever. And you run to the shower. It was a good trip. Yeah. Run to the shower. We're not having this conversation. And this is consistently how Canales and Morgan face the media. Consistently. And now it's getting out. They released Jadeveon Clowney because of personality-related issues. Dan Morgan, Dave Canales specifically, considered Jadeveon Clowney not a personality fit. And it is pertinent in the conversation of, will the Carolina Panthers pursue some of these other free agents? Will they go after Jair Alexander, a guy who in Green Bay had some issues with the personality? Will they go after Jalen Ramsey, a big personality? Charismatic, but a big personality. Should Dan Morgan pursue Alexander? Well, Joe Person writes, the team and other decision makers like Dan Morgan should proceed with caution with Alexander, who has played more than 7 games only once over the past 4 seasons. The Panthers dealt with injury issues with Horn, but still decided to pay him big this offseason. So injury concerns with Jair Alexander, does that prevent the Panthers from signing the free agent? What do you think? I think injuries alone, that shouldn't prohibit you from giving him a 1-year contract. 1-year low-risk contract. I think most teams across the NFL look at Alexander and they say, I don't know, do we want to pay this guy all this money? Do we want to commit for multiple years? Or do we just want to give him a 1-year prove-it deal? And that might be where the market is. If that's the case, if I'm the Panthers, who cares about the injuries? It's a 1-year deal. Let's get a bona fide talent outside. We hope Chow Smith-Wade grows at nickel. And by all estimations so far in OTAs, it looks like he's growing. But let's have 2 real Pro Bowl caliber corners outside and win that way. Because it is very important this defense grows. They can't be the last ranked defense in football. That's not going to be a competitive product. If the Panthers go out and do anything close to what they did last year on defense, I don't care how good the offense is. You're not winning more than 7 games, giving up 31 points per game. You're not. It's not going to happen. Don't delude yourself. They need to improve this defense. Derek Brown coming back will improve it. The 2nd, 3rd round picks at edge, those guys will improve it. But go get an insurance policy. And if it's Jair Alexander on a 1-year deal, I will take that all day, all night. But heck, I would settle for Julian Blackmon. Again, guy from Indianapolis, good safety, position of need, you could use him. Why not go after Julian Blackmon? He's all you need. I don't need Jair Alexander to be happy. The Panthers don't need to go after one of these big ticket names circulating around the NFL right now. They don't need Ramsey. They don't need Alexander. Go get Blackmon. You could have had Jermaine Pratt, but he got sucked up by the Las Vegas Raiders today. He signed with Vegas, 1-year deal worth just south of $5 million, and it's worth up to just south of $5 million. Personalities. That is what the Panthers clearly value right now. This is something that's multiple reports are all saying the same things. We're going to go into more evidence of how last year, potentially, there were personality issues in the Panthers locker room that are inhibiting them from making decisions, bringing guys in like Jair Alexander or other free agents that might have these big personalities. We'll go into that. Specifically with Alexander, I pulled this from an article back in 2023. And Jair Alexander, notorious for a situation in Green Bay where he went onto the field during overtime for a coin toss. He wasn't the captain of the team, so he shouldn't have been out there. And he went out there anyway. And he said something along the lines of, as the defense will stop them. And the ref was like, oh, you don't want the ball? You're kicking it? And it was a mistake by Alexander. He knew it was a mistake. As soon as he said it, he was like, come on. I didn't mean it that way. He was really just saying, I have confidence in us, the defensive unit. Well, it's a bad time to say that. He's being a jackwagon, obviously. And after that, the Packers suspended their corner. Matt LaFleur, after the game, he said, regarding Alexander's suspension, I'll just say this. It's never one thing that caused him to suspend Alexander. So there could be some issues there. Big personality. Canales, Morgan seem averse to these big personalities. I think they got burned last year. Deontay Johnson, a guy who wouldn't fit in anywhere. So this is less about the Panthers not being able to nurture big personalities. Because to some people, they think it's about that. They think it's the Carolina Panthers. They have a young head coach. They have a young quarterback. They're sort of inconsistent. The owner has been doing well, but he's a loose cannon. And veterans go there, and even though you pay these guys more money to come to Carolina because they want to go to Kansas City anyway, they get here, and because the money was the deciding factor, they're in Carolina, and they're like, and it's just like you or I getting a bad job where they pay us more. Within 30 seconds of having a job you don't like that you just took because of the money, you want to leave. You want to leave. You regret it. Never follow the money alone. And some of these guys, I think Clowney is the example of that, followed the money to Carolina. I remember week 1, literally, Clowney throwing his hands up in agony, in straight agony, as the Panthers got stomped week 1 and week 2. Just visibly frustrated. I think from the beginning with Clowney, he gets here, and it's just like, dude, I was on the Browns, I was on the Texans, like, I've never seen anything this bad. And I think that, as a jumping point for Clowney, was a bad start. And maybe it hemorrhaged into the locker room. Who knows? That's why Joe Person now writes in May that the Panthers released Clowney in part because they didn't view him as a great locker room fit. I think the guy that really scars the Carolina Panthers, that Dave Canales looks at and says, I don't want to go after Jair Alexander. I don't want to go after any of these guys with any baggage. Like, I just want straight first and second year players. I want guys who have to prove themselves or proven commodities in our system like Bryce Young, J.C. Horn, and Derek Brown. I don't want to go sign a guy who's in the news or is a loose cannon or is overly vocal and outspoken. I don't want anything to do with that because I am scarred. I am scarred from what happened with Deontay Johnson. And you can't blame Canales for that. What Canales dealt with in the first few weeks of the 2024 season is near unprecedented. I mean, I've very few times in my career of watching sports have seen someone behave like Deontay Johnson did early in the Carolina Panthers 2024 season. Literally talking to reporters, just visibly frustrated, not really filtering anything that's coming out of his mouth. The whole time it was almost like he was implicitly forcing a trade, and he was so discontented. Who knows what he was saying internally? He was looking at a hot mic and telling us he was disgruntled, how he didn't like how things were going. Imagine what he was saying internally. And he crawls his way to Baltimore. And I don't think it would have worked anywhere. Clearly it didn't in Baltimore. I don't think he's the type of player that any team would hitch their wagon to now, or I don't think he would have fit with most other teams. But the case in point is this was the toxin in your locker room last year. And there were guys in this locker room, evidently, who had some conflicting personalities. Is Dave Canales scarred from that? Another guy here, Miles Sanders. So this was an interesting report. Joe Person of The Athletic, again, Joe, you're doing amazing things, sir. You're doing amazing things. We love what Joe Person's doing down in Carolina right now. So he wrote this article in The Athletic. Hubbard appeared to take a veiled shot at Miles Sanders, who lost his starting spot to Hubbard in 2024 and wasn't the happiest camper before getting released in March. Hubbard said, again, this was yesterday, I believe, at Carolina Panthers minicamp. Hubbard tells Joe Person and the media, usually in the running back room, sometimes it can be a little off. Can be a little off when there's competition in the running back room. But everyone this year, Hubbard said, is cool. And that's a blessing. I don't take that for granted. And he was talking about competition this year that he'll be facing against Rico Dowdle, the free agent who signed with the Panthers. Everyone's cool this year, said Hubbard. But last year was a little off. He said sometimes it can be a little off. So we all presume that's about Miles Sanders. Hubbard, to his credit, actually told Joe Person after he published this article, which is still available in The Athletic, that he did not mean it that way. So Hubbard feels like he's being misrepresented or whatever. But who knows? Who cares? The running back room was off last year, according to the star running back Chuba Hubbard. And this isn't the only position group that had a little bit of fire, a little bit of feud in the locker room. There were some personalities there, veteran personalities, that were not fits in Carolina. Deontay Johnson, Miles Sanders, Jadeveon Clowney, you go down the list. Is that preventing Dave Canales and the Carolina Panthers from signing some of these guys who are available but do come with some baggage? They did lose out on Jermaine Pratt, who I thought could have been a great fit. Not a big personality. I don't think there's any reports on Pratt about him being a toxin. He did try to get a trade this offseason, so maybe that was something that they looked at, and he's another guy that falls into this category. But needless to say, Pratt, he's on the Vegas Raiders now. So he went to Vegas. This wasn't a matter of a veteran in free agency going to a contender. The Panthers didn't lose out on a guy that they could use to Buffalo or Kansas City. Who knows how serious the Panthers were about Pratt. But he is a thumper. He had 143 tackles last year with 5 tackles for a loss. And Vegas got him for just under $5 million. And the contract is worth up to $4.78 million. And they signed him on June 12th. So as Pratt goes, some of these veteran guys start to go. Julian Blackmon, where's he going to go? You can't help but ask, will the Carolina Panthers bring in one of these players? Or is any sort of baggage too much for Dan Morgan, the Carolina Panthers front office? That is it for this segment. Thank you so much for tuning in. Way more content for you. This is The Tone, your favorite Carolina Panthers podcast. The Tone.